So we're back from the first video where we started the full Ecochet model from 3D Total, and all I've done since I finished that video is just go around with the flatten brush and just really knocked back some of the blobbiness that was coming into the model. A lot of the model is still very much in just blocking stage because we've only had an hour or so on it. And there's plenty of areas where I've started it and I've put a bit of definition in based on what I'm seeing, but it's still nowhere near accurate. So we did the arms, and that's put in lots of nice placeholders for us, and most of the correct muscle layout. And as you can see, it gives a good chunk of the form and the main muscles, but it's not accurate yet. And you can see by some of the volumes here are just from certain angles are just nowhere near. So we're just going to do a pass now that puts in a bit more of the accuracy. I think what I will do is just put just a stand of some type in the bottom. I'll just append in something. So we've got let's have a look. Really just a cylinder. Whenever I'm doing that, I'll just turn perspective off. I'll actually dynamesh it just so as I've got a proper model. And then use the move tool, scale it down. And then scale it up. E or scale, just check it from the front because it won't be lined up now. Yeah, there we go. Just something to give me a little bit more of a, no, not quite right, of a grounding really. You definitely don't need it, but it just might help me to pin him to a ground level when I start doing things like the feet really. And you can see from something that's always useful to do, just for a very quick test, is just knock a dark colour on. And let's have a look at the silhouette. So as you can see in silhouette, which is when we talk about form, his upper body is quite like the reference, and I always like to do that just to see where I'm going wrong. So the arms are quite good. The head's a little bit too big. I think the proportions are still okay. The shoulders and the deltoids look good. The forearms, not particularly brilliant, but we've got the right sort of volume. Hands in the right place. Legs, not so much. So we haven't done any work on the legs at all. So you can see horrible. This is probably right where the sartorius comes through, which is a strap that goes through here. Very flat band that kind of straps in a load of the muscles down here, which we'll get to in a minute. But this is wrong. There's volume bulging there. This is terrible. And you can see here, this curve is all wrong. So it looks fine-ish from the front, but because we haven't done any work yet, you can see where it's wrong, and that's just a good way of checking it really, is just to have a look at that volume. So let's just quickly correct some of that volume. You might hear me clattering around a bit as I grab the model and turn the model. So again, I'm just using our friendly Ecochet. I just pulled him off his stand for that, which didn't help. So let's just put in some of his gluteus around at the back here. So it's I'll just use clay build-up, big strokes, very low intensity, and you see me looking off to the side as I start to measure where everything is. So base of the spine, I suppose, around there. And start the gluteus comes out and round. And keep looking, turning from the side. Keep looking at. It's quite a bulbous muscle on the model. It is anyway, but a big muscle. And drops down here. So I'm using the stroke and then the smooth, and then a little bit of flatten if it's gone too bulbous. I'm probably best not even worrying about the flatten at the minute, because I'm just trying to get some of that. You can see the form's nowhere near yet, so I'll go a bit stronger, build up some of that volume, get his butt cheek in properly. That's better. You can see it. You can see it now from the side here, down this side. It's building up a little bit better. Fantastic. So we'll put a couple of the big ones in at the back. So move this other model over. Okay. So let's get this bicep femoris in at the back. And that comes down the side. Same this side. I've actually got 3D total models all around me, so I'm surrounded by little grey naked men and one lady who's probably feeling a bit intimidated by now, I would imagine. Okay, so we've got a clear distinction here. Bicep femoris at the back, this one, it's actually quite funny if you think of this like the arm. This is the muscle. If you reverse it, it's not exactly like the arm, but this is the muscle here that's going to pull this back up and round. So it's the equivalent of, if you reverse it, you've got the bicep of the upper arm. It's quite a good analogy. So we've got a bit of volume in there, so we know that's there now. And we'll come round to the side to the fascia latae, which is about here. There's a lot of study you can do about the obviously about the skeleton. We haven't done any work on the skeleton here at all, but there's a key point in here that you need to really get your head around, which is on your pelvis. Your pelvis is made up of obviously lots of different parts, but the main parts is the iliac crest at the front, the iliac crest going over the back of the pelvis. And then you've got two little bumps on it, which I might try and show later on in the video, which is anterior superior iliac crest and the anterior inferior iliac crest, which is two bumps here, but everything kind of pins off it from the front here. And a lot of the muscle starts from this point here, and it's good to go. I'll just put it in as a reference, and it's good to, when I was learning a lot, it's a good one to really go and study to make sure you understand. Just going to use flatten there. This is the sartorius muscle I was telling you about that comes round and down the bottom, touching in deep in here, underneath. The knee's not very good at all, so let's put some definition in there. And it bands these muscles here, which I'm just going to put some volume in. You can see it very well on the model actually. Kind of straps around this model. This drops down below the knee here, which is a big volume. Again, I'm just roughing these in. But this one here, this is like a big teardrop one here. You'll see this. Just going to pin these down, and then so this big one that we just started to paint, to sculpt, that sits in there. see it behind that strap. So that's your vastus medialis. Going up to this one, which tucks in under here. It's got big volume at the top, which is your rectus femoris. You can see that nicely on the Ecochet model. It's got actually got a split in it, which I'm not sure how accurate that is. Now look here, there's too much volume gone missing here, so I'm going to go in and move that. There's nothing. The muscles are right, but the volume's wrong, so I'm just going to correct that a little bit from a few different angles. This is what we were seeing when we looked at the silhouette, really. And I might as well start correcting some of this while I'm here, because it's nowhere near. There we go. You can start to see that the volume's better already. Take a look at the model and spin it around. Try and match that volume when you're doing it, even if you don't know the muscles at all. And again, I keep saying I'm only recently studying the actual names. I've been sculpting for years and years and never took the time to learn a lot of the actual terminology. So it's been a year of relearning that for me. Knowing a lot of it by eye was always useful, but it's amazing how much you don't know. And these feet are very, very weak at the moment. We haven't touched this bottom end yet at all, but it's nice just to tweak it into the right sort of rough sort of shape. So the bottom end's looking fine. The bottom end of the gluteus is looking fine. Going down into the back here to the what they call the gastrocnemius. Gastrocnemius. I keep getting the name wrong. The gastrocnemius. So going back up to where we were with the rectus femoris. And let's carry on with the next one. Keep looking at our model. So we need the outer one. If you notice this one here, the big teardrop one that we talked about, the vastus medialis, is lower than the one that I'm about to paint, which comes around here and tucks next to this one. Which is the outer part of the leg. Down to what becomes the patella. It's the bottom end of the femur. Just make sure I'm following it. There's a clear band of muscle. I think it's called the Riche band, if I remember rightly. Which is we'll put it in, but we'll probably back it out nicely because it probably should just be flat and just show a plane change rather than it's not muscle as such. So we knock the definition right back on that as it shows on the Ecochet. Okay, so let's go back and let's have a look at the okay. So we've come around here and that's tucked in. We've got our gluteus maximus coming around, which we think we've defined well enough there. Flattening a bit too much there, so which comes around. Let's just double check. Yep. And then we've got a little thing at the top, again from that same pivotal point that we talked about. Look. So the sartorius comes up exactly where we've shown it, into that area, and then it's divided at the top by here, which is the tensor fascia latae, which comes back down into the iliotibial band that comes right to the bottom. The femur there, and we'll just get that in as we'll define it in. And I'm just doing, you're just using the model as a guide, but knowing the muscles has helped. Again, I've got years of study still to go to get more and more accurate. I'm not going to put the genitalia in, but I will just put a bit more volume in, just to match the reference a little bit. And I'm using, as I say, the full écorché, so there's a lot more of the muscles in here that, again, I'm just going to hint at them for now. Flatten them back again. But again, I'm only after a bit of volume here. So it's improved it. It's given us the base. I want to smooth it back a bit, really, so because I wouldn't mind going in later on. I'm just going to put a little bit of work into the bottom of the leg, again with no huge amount of accuracy. So let's get that gastrocnemius done, which is it's your calf muscle with a big split in the back, and you can see it clearly on your reference model. It drops a bit lower on this side. I think this is one muscle that people have been modelling and drawing for years, even if you don't know anatomy that well, you kind of know there's this big fat kind of split muscle here, leading down into something that everybody knows, which is the Achilles tendon. So that muscle grabs at the end of muscle. When you see muscle that's all red and then you see it going white, that's muscle going into tendon, which is crucial really, because tendon doesn't stretch, whereas your muscle, you know, it's like a wire at the end that doesn't move. It just pulls the muscle to the bone. Again, I think I mentioned it in the other video, but you've got a tendon and ligament is where bone goes to bone. So a good example would be on your patella there, which is floating in there. It's attached with a ligament to the bottom here. Whereas a lot of the other muscles use tendon, which is where you've got, for example, like the bicep, where you go from one bit of bone to another bit of muscle into the bone. So in the ligament here, there's no muscle at all. It's just ligament, bone, ligament, bone. Not a huge lot of use for us, really, but good to know. And now I'm just free forming, really. I'm not doing this with any accuracy other than to get those just a little. I'm just matching it. Really, I'm going to change all this area when I get down to this area later on. But for me, it's when we did the silhouette thing, it really highlighted the issues that I was having with volume not being there at all. So this is again more by eye than by any real spending the time looking at the reference. I'll come back to that. And let's just flatten that one back down. I keep glancing over at the planar model because it's, as I said, that's actually one of my favourites. And I think over time I'll probably end up using the planar one as much as, if not more than my originals. because it's just fast shapes, and if you get the lighting right when you're using it, it could give you such a good reference model. The Ecochet one that I'm using now is great, but I personally just like that planar one. I was really pleased when they did that. You can see I'm using the flatten a lot, and that's giving me quite a good way of chopping back some of that work that I've done. And you can see that the form is starting to conform actually to what I'm looking at, the reference that I'm looking at. Flatten off that patella a little bit. Flatten off the gastrocnemius a little bit. In fact, let me put in, with dam standard, I'll actually do what I can see on the model a little bit more, just to measure a few things out. So, dam standard brush is useful as long as you keep the intensity quite low, because it can carve in quite aggressively if you're not careful. So I'll just start putting a little bit of detail in here. Again, this is the full Ecochet that we're using, so you're starting to see where the tendons are coming down. So let's just put in some of the marks that we can see, which this is the side of the tibia, really. This is one bone here, this flattened part. If you feel the front of your own leg, this flat bit here is actually the bone, because it sits right at the front of the leg. And you can actually see that plane quite nicely. So I'll feel that plane quite nicely because it's right there under the surface for you. There's a muscle in here called the soleus, which is when I get down to this area properly, I'll show you. It's another one of my favourites that clearly helps you to understand the layout of the lower leg. You don't really have to do this bit. I'm doing this really to show where some of these muscles are. So and then again, those that I haven't really defined are in there. It's a lovely part of the body, the back of the knee. There's a big fat pad in there actually that I haven't drawn in. It's not really shown that well on the model. Gives some nice shapes and shadows. Okay, cool. We've got it's not brilliant. Let's have a quick look at our black. Now look at the difference now from when we started, just straight away. Even though we haven't been super accurate, the volume and the form's now closer to what we're going to do at the end. So there's not going to be major moves to do now. We're not a million miles off the form that we're going to end with. If you look at it, you're starting to see it as a pretty much, hopefully, as the model looks, and the overall form is there now. Really, we're very, very close. We haven't done any work on the head, so I might just do a couple of minutes on the head now before I start what I would call a detail pass. And we're only a couple of hours in, or an hour or so in now, so we're not really spending huge amounts of time doing this work, and it's not anything other than you don't need to know all of those muscles. It's great to be to learn it. It's a passion for a lot of people. but the fact that you're just drawing what you're sculpting what you see is the thing. So I'm just going to put in what I see on the neck. So the sternocleidoid mastoid, one of the big ones that I can never say it. It's this big strapping one that comes up into your neck. I'm going to actually pick the model up. I'll keep knocking things over and just have a real good look underneath and make sure I'm getting a bit of the shape right in here and the chin. Right, I'm not going to do the head until I'll probably do a separate video for the head later on. So all I'm after really is just again some landmarks. So just literally to point where the main things are going to go. Just build that muscle up nicely. This muscle, one of the first ones that we did here, she's going to come all the way around here. This is your trapezius, as you know. This is one that everyone knows. And then it gets a little bit more complex at the front of that, which is why I just put a bit more definition on that one. And there's quite a few muscles that control the control of the head and the movement of the head. We can just pencil a few of them in. I keep saying pencil a lot actually because I'm so used to talking about drawing. So just draft it in and then knock it back with the smooth. Again, we're just, you can see if you look at your reference now, that's just that little bit there has helped. Maybe just lay down some marks of where things are on the face. If you've done any of the drawing classes, you'll know that the head is 5 eyes wide. So that's an eye. So 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and if you look at your model, that'll pretty much give you a guide. Let's just round off that head. Like I say, these are only marks. We're not going to do the full head now. It's really only just to give us a bit more of a definition than we had. Little bit of a brow line just to indicate that, because he's actually got quite a mean brow, this boy. Doesn't look brilliant from that side, so I'm going to flatten him back. I seem to be using the flatten tool more and more today, so maybe a bit too aggressive then. Lost some of that nice definition I was getting on the chin. Again, we'll knock it back because we just wanted something to give us that suggestion of how it looks on the model, and just make sure, for some reason, I think I did a mirror and weld before, that's why it looks like I've got a bum on the back of the head, which I don't think having bums on your head is that accurate, so we'll work that out. Mirror and weld's a great tool, so you just, if anything ever goes wrong or you do something on one side or any kind of issues, you can just, using X as the centre line, just mirror everything across and it welds that seam. Just have a quick look at the head. I'm not really doing very well at looking at the reference at the moment. Just going ahead having fun sculpting. So, yeah, so we've got all the main landmarks in there now. Okay, so that's another pass. It's another 45-50 minutes to move it a little bit further down the line. You can see we've got the form now. the next pass will be we'll do pick an area, and we'll go in and really put in detail. And the area that I think is next, I would suggest, would be the obliques and the abdominals, the chest area, all the way up here, and put some real definition into some of these areas here, and the big chunky latissimus dorsi down here. The good thing about this is, and whether you've done it or not, you probably would want to go ahead and at some point do this if you're a sculptor in any way, because once you've built your own model, you tend to, and then you can retopologize it, you'll use that as your reference, your base for everything. A lot of people start off using the standard human shapes in ZBrush, or they take models from somewhere else and they sculpt over the top of them, but there's nothing more liberating than doing your first human body, and then when you do anything from this, so if you make a bodybuilder off this, if you make a dwarf or a goblin, or you could even make it into male and female change, when it's come off your own model, you feel like you've really achieved something, and you'll know what I mean when you do that. So it's all right using other models to sculpt on top of, but the real desire for me would be to make sure you're working off your own, and it is a real pleasure when you do it. So, and that's what these models are great for, is to help you to get to that stage. So let's move it on a little bit further.